Howdy, all you delicious people. I am here to talk about season 3, episode 11 of The Masked Singer. At the end of the day, I could say that this is pretty much all kind of review at this point, kind of like reviewing how I felt about the newest episode, but at the end of the day, probably not changing my real consensus of who I think people are. But by and large, I can talk about how I felt about the performances and how I feel the performances might change the people going forward, or maybe like how I felt about them and stuff like that. So, if anything, that might be new to bring to the table, and so I might talk about that and talk about like how I feel like um there might be these characters might be quick to eventually be bumped off the show, or go along further. Within this episode, I can mention to you that the kangaroo had gone home tonight, which I did not think was right, but I think there is a reason for that. Ultimately, one thing that I could say is I'm not going to actually say who the actual person was who was unmasked to the very end of this episode, so don't feel spoiled until I actually will give you a double five count. You'll see who it is, and then we'll ultimately do a episode wrap up afterwards. Um, Reasonably, again for the Dark Angel, still assuming it is still Candy Burris, and but reasonably, one thing that I can honestly say is there was like a pre-clue package which was just the kangaroo fighting the Dark Angel, and there was not it was just smack talk, which didn't really make any sense. Kind of the luggage to me didn't really allude to anything, but again, if this is who I think it is, I don't clearly quite understand any of the clues anyways, because I'm not familiar with this person. But a lot of the luggage that was presented tonight as a clue, I was just like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to tie any of this to any of these people. Don't really understand these clues, not quite sure, but as per usual, these things would tend to be this way. Anyway, so Dark Angel performing how she did tonight, honestly, to me, kind of just felt like nails on a chalkboard. It was a Shania Twain song that I ultimately just didn't much care for. I didn't care for the way that she performed this. At the end of the day, there is a lot better songs that this Dark Angel had sung, and I think it's just kind of one of those where it's just kind of like there's only so many songs that this person can sing, or maybe this person's voice was better on some days but not good today. I don't know, but she sounded like nails on a chalkboard. Didn't really like the performance. Thought she was gonna go home, but evidently I was wrong. Moving on. Yeah, like I said, Kangaroo gone home tonight. I had still assumed because the internet was my friend, and plus there was evidently there was a pic of this before. I'm assuming at some point in time of Jordan Woods being a person of interest within this Kangaroo. I actually liked her performance. The song that she picked was a Jordan Sparks, Chris Brown song, No Air, which I actually really did like. I liked how she performed this song, and I think the Kangaroo. I kind of think once that she announced that she was a model to people, I think that's probably what kind of changed people to go, oh, well, she's not famous, so yeah, we're gonna get rid of her next, is kind of how I felt about it. Because ultimately, um, once she threw around the whole like, hey, she's a model thing, like I think that's where like people were kind of turned against her or something along those lines, or they mentioned that she wasn't an actual uh she wasn't an actual legitimate singer. I think that's what also kind of done her in as well. Like I think a lot of people were thinking that this person was a model, so yeah, that kind of didn't do her any favors. I think a lot of the times when the judges pick a not quite so famous person, I think that's what also kind of does a costume character in, when the costume character sounds really great, but ultimately when the judges kind of assume of a person being a lesser famous person than say others, like say, for example, like if they assumed that the astronaut or the turtle would be like Zac Efron or something that appeals to a wider audience of crowd, then ultimately, like if somebody guessed that it'd be like Lala or a person that doesn't have quite as good significance or is as relevant as a Zac Efron currently, then that's a lot of times when you see certain costume characters get the boot, and that's super sad to say. But anyways, I would assume probably a lot of also people wanted to knock off the kangaroo because they didn't exactly know who she was going to be, compared to a lot of the other people that could make better guesses or know exactly who that person is or this and that and whatever, what have you. So, anyways, by the end of this episode, I'll definitely show who the kangaroo actually was. Um, I assumed that this was either Jordan Woods or Jordan Sparks. And recently, when this girl had sang a Jordan Sparks song, maybe that also alluded to people thinking, like, well, I don't think that this is Jordan Sparks because she sang a Jordan Sparks song. So, yeah, kind of made it to for people to really believe that this wasn't going to be like a real true famous person and whatever, what have you. Anyways, moving on. The astronaut, I still assume, is Hunter Hayes. At the end of the day, the clue package between the turtle and the astronaut is that they're heartthrobs. You can only throw that name out there so many effing times, but looking at it, heartthrobs honestly seem like a very old terminology. When I think of the word heartthrobs, I think of like an 80s star, which Hunter Hayes and Jesse McCarthy, or McCartney, who I assume are the astronaut and the turtle, it doesn't sound to me like heartthrobs. It just seems like they're stars in their own right, I guess you could say, in astronomical like terms. Yeah. So, anyways, with their package together, yeah, it was like they were both called heartthrobs, and there's always space puns and whatever, and little jabs and this and that. At the end of the day, the astronauts sang a song tonight, which I'm like, this song didn't really seem as strong as other ones. It just seems like this astronaut is probably running out of songs to sing at this point, or he is kind of biding his time, having other songs being used on other episodes rather than this one. It kind of felt like that. Um, like he knew he was going to get by tonight, which is weird. I did really appreciate that he did have the NSYNC Bye 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 song, which was kind of fun for him to use. But then again, I guess like the judges will probably assume, yeah, he's an NSYNC guy or he's a Backstreet Boy or something like that. That honestly, justifiably doesn't make sense now. But they're still gonna go with that, or assume that he's a New Kids on the Block, or that he's maybe some other random esque like person and or celebrity, because these judges obviously don't know, because both of these artists kind of had a very brief scent of fame and this and that, whatever, what have you. Anyways, moving on. The turtle, I'm still assuming, is Jesse McCartney. If I'm even saying that right, I could have said it wrong. At the end of the day, again, a lot of these clues to me, I could not tie the clues with the people that I think they are. That probably doesn't mean that I should go out of my way to change my answers. Honestly, just because I just don't feel that like the clues are there just to confuse people, and a lot of times the clues are just something bizarrely put together where it's like, oh well, yeah, well, I sat on a horse one time on a photo on my Instagram, and that's where the clue is representative of. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, but I guess it makes sense in their weird bizarrish way of like, well, we can't put any clue out there where somebody can easily Google search. They absolutely have to know this person by heart or by fart or whatever to like just know that it's this person. So at the end of the day, that is still my cemented guesses for every single one of these people. I've yet to want to adjust to any of these, and at the end of the day, if people want to say more guesses, I will slap them on here. If there are people that know much more about any of these clues than I do and can clue me in, by all means. But at the end of the day, I just want to say that is really just a wrap for guessing, because there's only 4 people on tonight, and kind of at this point, kind of much more cemented who these people are. Not gonna guess anybody else at this point, realistically, unless there's some bizarrish last minute thing that I'm like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it's this person. And plus, at the end of the day, a lot of my either first time assessments or eventual come to fruition kind of moments ultimately end up being right in some form or fashion. So I just don't think I need to go anywhere else. Like, why why mess up a good and or bad thing, which ultimately my uh my standings are still um pretty decent at this point, I guess, unless I don't get the kangaroo right. So I think it's that time now to tell you who the kangaroo is. By the end of this countdown, I am going to unmask the kangaroo. So if you don't want to know, maybe you want to go through Hulu and start watching the show so you can know who all these people are without it getting spoiled. Now is the time, because that is the only way to grind through and watch these shows without getting spoiled. And then I'll do a whole season recap of how I've kind of felt good and or bad about this season. So now we are going to unmask the kangaroo. If you don't want to know who is under it, now it's time to go. But you know, I'm going to show who it is right now. Jordan Woods. She is a model. She is a entrepreneur and influencer, whatever that means. A lot of times when you say the word influencer, it usually just says that this person is very popular or famous or has a big following. And at the end of the day, an influencer means that people are coming to her and throwing money or product, or like a lot of YouTubers, once they become a YouTube influencer, they have businesses coming to them saying, oh, could you play my game? Here's resources for it and stuff like that. Or here's a unlimited amount of stuff for this and this and that. I'm not saying that, even though I might even accomplish those things, I am not really and honestly a true influencer, just because I tend to do a lot of random stuff on this channel, which is blatantly obvious. But at the end of the day, Jordan Woods, even though ultimately Jordan Woods, to be brutally honest, was a much more internet guess, and I've stressed that ultimately it was not personally my choice of who this person was, because I didn't know them in a personal level. because I don't watch Kim Kardashian stuff or the Kardashian world. I don't look into that. But this person was unmasked as the kangaroo. Looking at it, I could have taken this loss because if I would have, I would have still felt good about this season. So luckily, it is still Jordan Woods, and I guess I could say that I'm correct on this. Still, kind of really at this point, doesn't quite matter. Just because I think I'm much more familiar with other people that are still going to get unmasked further on into the show. Um, and yeah, so at the end of the day, I could say that I am still in good graces, no matter where I kind of have end up figuring out who, without a doubt, people are. So, I think now is about that time to do a season recapping. Man, we're really kind of really busting this out and getting it done fairly quickly, just because a lot of this is review, a lot of it is like here's this person now. I don't know much about Jordan Woods at all, so if people know her much and are much more familiar with her, then she sings really well. Or she sings really well. And I hope by the end of the day, she goes and eventually has a recording contract or something like that after this. Because I think she could really, if she gets her name back out there and doesn't wait too long, I think that she could have a following and of people that are going to be willing to listen to her sing original music, I hope, instead of maybe going after, like, yeah, I'm just going to sing the stuff from the Masked Singer. All right. No, don't do that. Sing something that's just from the heart, or maybe something that a person helps you write, whatever you want to do. But, anyways, good for Jordan Woods. At the end of the day, Jenny McCarthy had come up with Jordan Woods. So I guess that's score one for the judges. But at the end of the day, I could really say that looking at it, looking at the judges' scorecard, like, what is it, like, how many characters have they gotten right via wrong at this point? Like, the judges are still far behind, and at the end of the day, I guess they're just trying to, salvage whatever they can, to say, man, I finally got this one right. Wow, awesome. Because ultimately, like, even the guest appearance person, the girl that played, uh, the girl that was on Community. I've seen her on Community plenty of times, but heaven forbid Yvette. Yvette came on tonight, and she was the guest. The guest. I hope I'm saying that right. Yvette, I believe. She was on tonight, and she, like, was mentioning, like, how, like, man, the show was really just really crazily different when you're actually on here, compared to when you're not on here. Um, it's like, well, yeah, like, look at any show. Like, look at kind of maybe like she was on, like, Talking Dead. I'm sure she would say the same thing. It's like, man, it's kind of really weird going on Talking Dead when you're not on Talking Dead, because ultimately she would just have, like, mountains and mountains of just, like, research that she would bring to the table talking about the episode, and it was crazy. Where via, like, here, I'm sure she probably had, like, notes and little things written down somewhere. But anyways, she was saying, like, how, and kind of Nick Cannon was just like, oh yeah, how the judges are kind of dumb or whatever. It's just like how they guess or whatever, how they come up with things or this or that. And, like, Robin Thicke was kind of chiming in about something too or whatever. But anyways, they got this one right. So, like, at the end of the day, maybe next season, maybe their guesses will be better. At the end of the day, you can't win them all. Robin Thicke was guessing really well last season. So was a lot more other people. I think yeah, like Johnny Weir, I think was a good guess for them, and like I think they were kind of nailing a lot more stuff last season than they did this season. Every once in a while they get a good guess, but they won't stick with it, and then they change, and then they do stupid guesses. So, anyways, yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts on how I've kind of been feeling about these episodes. I love all the judges. I don't want to like really downplay them or say that they're dumb, because there's a lot of ones where I just go on like, hey, let's go and look at the internet guesses right now. Let's see what people are speculating, and ultimately I might tie those guesses into what I've established. So at the end of the day, not every single one of these guesses are mine, but if you probably took out the internet guesses, I probably would still be winning more so than losing, to be brutally honest. If you took out every mass singer that I pulled an internet guess from, uh, which happened very few times. Because a lot of times I would come up with, like, okay, here's why I think that this person is the person that I think they are. Here's why. And this and that. Or maybe a person would mention something on a video. I think it's this person, or I think it's that person. I've had that from time to time. So I think it's time now to go into the episode recapping. So I guess we'll give a 5 count for that, and we'll go into season recap. So let's go. If you guys didn't know, last week the white tiger was Ron Gronkowski. And so reasonably, I can probably legitimately say that the Kangaroo was probably the only character left that I had like a very much like kind of question upon. Everybody else, I think I'm kind of really rearing my head to ultimately say that I can almost guess everybody else quasi correctly. Maybe the Night Angel, maybe the Kitty, maybe the Rhino, but when looking at it, there's 3 other characters that I think I can say are absolutely correct, or even 4 counting the frog. I'm cementing 4 out of these 8 people are left that I can guarantee are correct, and ultimately, there's one that I had already gotten correct. So, like, ultimately, I'm assuming that this is going to be, I can say now at this point, that basically this is just going to be a winning season at this point. I guess we can just cement that kind of we can kind of count the tallies as they come, but I think this is kind of like a landslide at this point, where it's just kind of like, okay, it's like, well, no, there's still kind of there's still kind of things up in the air. Well, the more and more we go about this, and the more there are people taken off the table, or changed, or whatever. At the end of the day, it seems like per week, every time somebody takes a mask off, it's like, yeah, I kind of been knowing that for a while. Like, truly and honestly, in all actuality, like, I think the astronaut, the banana, and even maybe the turtle, and like the frog was just kind of like, was barely there. Like, there's something that stuck out. The kitty was just kind of like something where I was kind of like, where I felt like somebody was like kind of matching it and putting it in the air. Then also somebody like has been saying like Nicole Richie on the show. So I've kind of been narrowing my guesses to maybe think that Nicole Richie could be somewhere on the show. Yeah. So ultimately, like Kitty Nicole Richie. Rhino, I'm assuming, is probably much more. It kind of feels like Tim McGraw, but at the end of the day, I can come with so many other guesses. Jason Aldean, Tim McGraw, Barry Zito. Because ultimately, like even though there said some kind of clue about people buying this person's album, that doesn't exactly mean anything. Because at the end of the day, they can kind of switch any kind of thing to throw people off. Like the Rhino was said to not be some kind of athlete in his clue package, but that doesn't exactly mean anything. That they could just be saying that to swerve people. Like the whole entire time that the Rottweiler was said to be some athlete the entire time, and actually the Rottweiler was an actual singer, Daughtry, from a season before. So reasonably, I think we can kind of landslide it now, um, and hope we can kind of see what's going to go on for next season. Bizarrely, I'm already thinking about next season with all the stuff that's already been going on. I don't even know if there's going to be an episode next week, but it seems like there is going to be one. I don't know if they're going to be pulling the plug on the show or not, or if the show is already wrapped as far as production goes. Because the Ultimate might have shot a lot of these episodes way ahead of time, and who knows? Because they might have been easier to do to get all these episodes done and over with. I don't know. So, looking at it, I hope they're able to have gotten all these shows done and over with, and hence why you have like Rob Gronkowski. He was unmasked by the time that coincidentally WrestleMania was a thing. Um, like coincidentally, it would have been weird if uh, if Rob Gronkowski was on like WWE or SmackDown or whatever, and then he was still on The Masked Singer, because like how is he being able to be in these two places at once or whatever? Because I know SmackDown like tapes in Orlando or whatever, or in the Performance Center and this and that and all that rigmarole, and they're kind of pre-taping stuff now to kind of scramble to get things together. And you guys don't want to know about WWE stuff, anyway. So yeah, so it's great. It's great. Every time I can get another win under the belt, it's great. I'm kind of looking forward to next season now, just to kind of like see who will get next season, because I honestly and truly believe like this season, I think they kind of ran out of like much more like big, like overall big stars throughout the entire show. Like I think like they had like some like they had like one or two big stars, and then everybody else was just kind of like filler, really. Um, you can also say Little Wayne. He's not a big enough star for you. Drew Carey, not a big enough star for you. Tony Hawk, not a big enough star for you. Like, yeah, but kind of looking at it, like looking at the first season, like every time you turned around, there was like a big star, big star, big star. Maybe like Rumor Willis might not be a big enough star for people. Um, but compared to this season, where this season was definitely one of those where it's like, I don't know, I barely know who this person is, or I had to take time to look up this person to figure out how I knew them. Um, that's what this season really was. It was just like, I don't know this person at all, or I know this person, but it took me a while to figure out how I know this person because their face looks familiar, but I don't know the name. And it's like, oh, well, she's some actress on these Netflix movies. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, oh, yeah, I've seen these two movies. I know her now. but it took me 20 minutes after the show was over to figure that out. Goofily enough. Like, oh yeah, she's that Netflix girl. Sure, we're going to Netflix girls now because we don't have big enough stars, evidently. Um, but that's the thing. This these shows are trying to get every kind of follower thing. Like, hey, they're trying to get somebody from Netflix that has done a lot of Netflix movies over to The Masked Singer, so they can get Netflix followers, or oh, they can get YouTube followers by grabbing this YouTube influencer. Oh my God, they can the model industry. They got this model that's fairly famous in here. Ooh um, and this and that. They're trying to pull from all these different avenues so they can get these followers from different branches of stuff. So hence why it seems like a lot of this stuff isn't all just like singers and or movie actresses or actors or athletes or whatever. They're trying to pull from every different avenue of getting followers from different branches of stuff, so they can all kind of like get more and more followers per season to season, which ultimately, once you get like an older generation of people, that's when every season to season people are gonna not know who half of these people are or know none of them. And it'll be interesting to see if people have been guessing these correct or have been way off, or had to guess because some judge said so, or had to guess because the internet said so, or whatever. And they didn't actually know who this was. They didn't actually know who Jojo Sawa was, or they didn't know who the Netflix star was, or they didn't know who the model was, or they didn't know who the the athlete was because nobody watches sports 24/7 or this or that. So, yeah, or live in that certain state where this athlete is tied to. Maybe people didn't know who Rob Gronkowski was because they didn't watch WWE, or they don't watch football, or they don't know anybody from the New England Patriots. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, at the end of the day, that's all I want to say about this episode. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.